Who are you?
Hi, my name is Jason. I work at Bonsai UN. Summers me on the Central Coast. And I'm a member of the Central Coast Bonsai Club, as well as Newcastle Bonsai Club and Bonsai Society of Australia.
What inspired you to enter the competition?
Died. No, it's last year. I've been working here for about 6 months. I've been doing bonsai for a while, but I wasn't that confident in putting trees in. And the club member who was asking people to trees really pushed me to put some in the immediate. That's the category that I'm in. I'm not actually in the Bonsai Open. I'm in the club side of the Open. He really pushed me to put some trees in. So last year I put 2. This year I'll be putting in 3. They're more fun than more traditional. And so it was that encouragement and just showing people that, doesn't matter what level your tree is, the practice of putting in and learning was really good there.
Can you tell us more about the bonsai trees you showcase?
I can. I said that it's more fun. One of them's actually right here, so it's easy. It's an elm, was a seedling. It's only 2 years old. So I had it self-sown in one of the pots here. I pulled it out and put it around this rock, and that's the trees I'm showing you. The intermediate things really are intermediate trees. I want people to be able to see that what you can do in a short space of time and encourage other people to pick up the hobby. So this is one. Another one is fun interpretation, and then there's an Aussie native that's going in. It's probably the most traditional ones. I have 3, but I don't want to give away too much, so we'll have to come down and see them.
What inspired the creation of the Bonsai Open?
So the Bonsai Open, because I've only really been a club maybe 2 years, I'm not probably the best to answer that. But my understanding is to parallel with the club show was to show the best bonsai that we can in the state and even Australia, like it's open to everybody. And to people who aren't in clubs. Not everybody is a member of a club. There's plenty of people that just do the practice at home, but they don't get a chance to go and show their tree. So it was open to do that and to give prize money and attract the best of the best that we can, and try and really lift the profile of bonsai in Australia and especially in the Central Coast.
How has the competition evolved over the years?
Again, I've only been in it for 2 years, but it's only been running for 5. So I think it started very much, it was, as we said, a club show. And there's the added on things, but even last year from talking to different people, in different categories, the things that are coming up, I don't think originally there was a show hen or a native. I may be wrong on that. We now have multiple different categories as well. So we've got the Bonsai Open General, where in the best tree overall, then there's categories for the show hen, which last year you could go into multiple categories. This year you can only choose one now. So last year, the second overall tree in the Open took our best native as well by Hugh Grantham Tree Makers. His Kunzia, which had beautiful movement to it. It's now, he can only put it in one of those categories to take out one of the prizes and get the skill there. It's memorable for me. This is a challenge to get into the show and for the weight and size. So this tree was very memorable. It was one of the ones that Rick, who is the founder here of Bonsai UN, put into the competition. We clean sweep the advance, and so this year has to go into the platinum. And he's also putting a tree in the Open itself this year as well. So as this for me was memorable, we had to put Bessa blocks under it. It was a feat to get it in there, put it on a table, and have the table hold it for the period. Apart from that, in just general shows, and I've seen trees that I've thought were completely different trees, like Microcarpa fig. Those leaves were so tiny, I thought it was a small leaf olive, just on a quick glance, especially with the big fat base and the taper that it had. And I was mistaken. Closer inspection, you see that it was a fig. It's the smaller things like that, but have stuck in my head and are things that I want to try and achieve in my own bonsai in the future.
What techniques did you use to shape and maintain your bonsai trees?
Well, the other one I showed earlier was obviously wired. I use cable ties as well. So wiring, as you can see here, can be very intense, going all the way into the fine tips of the branches. Wiring is a major part of modern bonsai. It's not a true traditional thing because it's only been, even in Japan, been using wire since the 40s or 50s, and they've been doing it for hundreds of years. Don't quote me on the exact decade, but somewhere in that vicinity. Trimming also, so cutting back to secondary leaves and things to get more density. So you trim out, not so much on the pine, but on the elm that I did, you cut back to 2 leaves and let it shoot out, and it goes from 1 to 2. It's bifurcation, and that creates mirror branches, and you get that finer branching. And also then helps create smaller leaves as it gets more leaves in the smaller tree to soak up more sunlight, and it gives you that miniaturization and that look of a bigger tree in miniature scale.
How long have you been participating in the art of bonsai?
On and off since the first sort of touches, and probably about 15 or 14. My cousin Sean was into it from a young age, and seeing his trees. There used to be Mr. Smalley had a little nursery, bonsai nursery in Ulladulla, and I used to go check it out. So I guess starting then, 14, 15, on and off over the years, I was given a gift one here, that sort of thing, but I didn't really get into it properly until just before my brother's wedding, where I wanted to put together a tree a year or 2 before his wedding to give to them to grow on as they grew as a couple and a family, to have something to hold on to. So that's probably about 15 years ago.
How many participants are expected to compete?
I'm not quite sure on the level of participants, but we're capped at 120 trees. Initially it was 3 trees per person. We have opened that up a little bit for some demand of people wanting to put a couple of extras in, so we've capped it at 5. So there's a maximum of 5 trees per person, whether they're in the club or out of the club, and whether that's spread to their category or the open or whatever else. So to help understand that a little bit, the difference between the two, the club show, as I was saying, is there. There's about 70 trees in the club show and about 50 in the open. The club show has the beginners, the intermediate or novice, intermediate, advanced and platinum categories, and then the Bonsai Open has its own open category. But there's also Shohin in that, which is your under 20 centimeter trees, and natives as well. So your natives are, figs. Most of the figs that we use for bonsai in Australia are our natives. So your Port Jacksons, your Moreton Bays, Benjaminas, they are considered natives. And even the microcarpa category, there's Ficus microcarpa hillii, or it used to be Ficus hillii, which is a native to Australia. But then there's other ones like Natalesians, which aren't, so they can't go into that category. But you've got your Melaleucas, your Callistemons, so your bottle brushes, your tea trees, those sort of things. They go into their own category, or they can be in the open, or they can go for the native. So we've got a few different things where they can go in multiples, and you have to choose this year the single one that they go into.
So how are the trees judged?
Within each category, obviously there's certain rules. Well, for Shohin, there's rules. You have to have a certain size tree, so it has to be under 20 centimeters, and that's from the lip of the pot to the top of the tree. That's your Shohin category size. If it's a cascade tree, the trees that go down below from the top, it's the 20 centimeter in total from top to bottom. Now that's the criteria for that one, and generally in a Shohin size pot. So a pot that basically you can fit in your hand is a Shohin pot. Apart from that, they're judged on health, on styling, and there's a bunch of aesthetics and things that are looked at. There is a sheet that the judges have, and they have to tick off those different categories. They mark them from 1 to 10. There's 2 separate judges per category, and it's the averages that are put out.
How does the event support the bonsai community and new enthusiasts?
Well, it opens it up. It's one of the biggest events, if not the biggest, on the east coast of Australia that I know of. It's also the only one that offers cash prizes and incentive, which gets people's attention. It's held at a very large club down in Mingara. and people travel from all over the place to come to it. And we try and get the word out there through social media and other aspects. Bonsai Open on Facebook and Bonsai Open on Instagram. They, just generally calling in people to come and have a look and see trees. Then you've got the vendors that are there. So you've got handmade pots, imported pots, tools, trees, all the club stuff. It's just it's an open, welcoming place. We can get bargains. We're going to be telling people about our beginner lessons that are coming up from the Bonsai Open, from the club. They'll be starting, I think, a month after the Open, and they'll be able to sign up for those there, as well as pick up a cheap, good little tree. As opposed to going to a big green shed and getting one. Whereas you can get some information to follow up, and often a better tree at a better price. And you do get that information from the club and follow-ups for further care and that sort of stuff, which you seem to miss out a little bit, unfortunately, in mainstream bonsai.
How do you ensure fairness in the judging process?
There's two separate judges. And as I said, there's all those categories that they have to go through, and that they have to put it in. The scores are obviously averaged out between the two of them. So one might score at a 6, the other one might score at an 8 in one category, and there's the multiple categories. The two scores get added together, and that's how you get the winner from that. So there's, in the Open, as I said, there's about 50 trees in the Open, and that's where the money goes in. So it's the two will score it, and the best 3 that they do combined go first, second, and third. And if there's a tied tree, then they'll get a third adjudicator in, probably the president of the club, I think, from memory.
Are there any workshops or demonstrations for visitors during the event?
There is. There's demonstrators. There's not actual workshops. The demonstrators that are coming in this year, we've got 4 different lots. You've got Hugh Grant from Tree Makers, who got second last year. He's doing an all-day demo, I believe, on a Saturday. The information's available on the webpage and will be posted soon to Facebook and Instagram. And then you have the Hood brothers, Sean and Michael Hood, will be doing a demonstration on a 35-year-old big Japanese black pine. With the demonstration trees will also be going on for auction later. And then you've got Megumi Bennett doing one on a Ficus Heniana, previously Ficus superba Heniana, Australian native fig, deciduous, the cedar fig as it's also called. And then we have Evan Marsh, who I'm not quite sure, unfortunately, what his demonstration will be on. But all the demonstration trees will end up for auction at the end of the demonstrations. So you're getting a chance to get a tree worked on by a professional at the Open. They often go for quite cheap for what they are, in my opinion. Still, though, unfortunately, outside of my budget for my personal, because I'm generally stuck at a $50 to $100 budget, and obviously they go for that.
What trees are most commonly entered into the competition?
Okay, the traditional trees are early Japanese natives. So your different junipers and your pines. Pine was the one I showed you the wire work on. The junipers were the ones that were behind me to begin with. They're sort of main common trees. But then here in Australia too, you see lots of figs. As I was saying, we've got the native category, so you get the natives as well. So tropicals, cedars, calendriums, I can never pronounce that. Fruiting trees like the plum here behind me as well. Olives. Most trees can be bonsai'd, and there's a bit of a representation of across the board there. But most of what you will see would be pines, junipers, and figs would be the most as top of the natives. Obviously, our natives include figs, but there's the Melaleucas, Callistemons, there are quite a few of those. Kunzias have won the native last year. But yeah, there's quite a few different varieties of trees.
Prizes are in the competition.
So first for the general open is $2,000, which is a hefty sum for a bonsai competition here in Australia. Second is $1,000, so keeping up there, and third's $500. Then you have the mini or shohin. There's $750 for that. for the first prize, and the best native also gets a $750 prize, as well as the recognition, and they give them the trophies and awards for that. And then on the club side, there's first, second, third trophies in all of the categories. So we have club, novice, intermediate, advanced, platinum, and I think there is a mini or showhand category in the club one as well.
What advice would you give to someone attending on their first bonsai competition?
As a competitor or as a visitor?
Both.
Both. As a competitor, enjoy it. Put your best tree in, do the best you can with it, and walk around, talk to people, grab some experienced people and ask them to give you some feedback, so you know how to improve it for the next time. That's the main thing. You as long as you're enjoying it and you're having fun and you get to improve, that's great. As a visitor, just walk around, soak it up, ask people who seem to be talking about trees questions. There'll be people around with little tags around their neck. They're from the club. Ask them questions. They'll be able to tell you different things about trees. Not all of us know everything about every tree, obviously. There's plenty of trees and things that we don't know. But I'll give you their best honest answer, and if they can't, they'll point you in the direction of someone who will know more about it for you.
Are the biggest challenges in organising a bonsai competition?
Volunteers. And I don't mean the volunteers themselves are a challenge, but getting volunteers to come and help. Then chasing up sponsorship, getting things organised, tables, clothing, and getting the volunteers together to come and help. If you're a member of a local club of any sort, putting on any show, you know that the effort that goes in, and being a volunteer organisation, like it's hard. Putting on the show for that sort of stuff, and then those volunteers then having to deal with people who are complaining that they don't think it was judged correctly, or that was this and that. It's all volunteers. The judges are paid, sure, but it's a nominal fee. And this year our two judges are both very experienced nurserymen in the bonsai world, being Clinton Nesky, Ray Nesky's son, who's grown up in that bonsai nursery his whole life, and Ashley Brown from Bonsai World, who's been working in and around the bonsai and nursery scene his whole life as well. I think he may have even grown up in a nursery himself too. The two of the guys have traveled the world looking at bonsai, understanding bonsai, so they're very in touch with it, and that's one of the hardest ones, is people saying that, it should have been this and it should have been that. They've got their criteria, they've got their knowledge, and you just have to go with it. It's like any art form, and even any craft. They're looking at certain criteria, but their own line judgment comes into it. Apart from that, finding a venue that's good for it. We're very lucky having Mingo, and there's now accommodation there, which makes it even easier. It's a great venue for large scale events like this. We're taking up their whole event space, with the vendors, the displays, the demonstrations and things. So having something that suits your size, your capacity, and the amount of people you're going to come through. But the biggest thing is having enough volunteers that are willing to fill in all the slots.
What steps do competitors need to enter their bonsais?
First and foremost is to go to the club website, www.centralcoastbonsaipub.com.au, maybe. Google Bonsai Open entry, and it's the first link that comes up. Click on that, it takes you to the correct page. Go down to the bottom of the page and there's a form to fill out. It's bold and underlined. It says Bonsai Open entry, or Bonsai Open form. Click on that, open it up, fill it out. Pretty easy. Name, Jason. Tree that you're entering, age, if you know it, style, and dimensions of the tree. From that, you save it, send it through to the club. The email that's on the bottom there, which is the coordinator, show coordinator, I think it is. It's on our Facebook and our Instagram. Feel free to check those out as well, these steps. And to send it in and pay the $20. If you're a non-club, if you're going into the open, or if your club member is filling it out. So you just enter your normal tree. There's a separate form and there's no entry fee for that being a club member to go into the club side of the competition. But the Open, where the prize money is a $20.
See the event evolving in the future.
That's a hard one. As I said, even from the one year to the other, the small involvement there. I think overall, it is to go and to make it a bigger and better event, increase the quality, and getting more people from more areas bringing trees in. Bigger international demonstrators would be great. Obviously, you've got to have the success and have the funds there to do all those things. I don't know. I think it'll be different every year. It's a volunteer committee as well, so they bring different ideas every time, and things just change as it goes on with that. So I'm not really sure, but I think eventually, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, if it's still going and it picks up traction and gets bigger and better, it may actually end up being two separate shows of the club and the Bonsai Open. It may become its own beast. It may not too. But that is an involvement that I think is a possibility long term. And I don't know how that would end up looking then. Could be a big show like the Pacific Open in the States. They're different shows that are completely separate. It would be interesting to see how that would expand and what would happen with that.
Where do you work?
Or here, MIUN, which is Rick Roberts' garden. It's not completely built yet. We're hoping to be finished by November. But he's going to have 150 to 200 odd trees on display out in the actual Bonsai Open garden. You've got lots of age to these trees and lots of different varieties. This is where I work.
What does the name Unrayued mean?
So it's from the N part is garden in Japanese, and the Unryu is the name of the type of camellia, which is we commonly call the zigzag camellia here in Australia and in different parts of the world. So it goes up through, like it's going through the clouds as the leaf patterns form, and that's where the name Unryu comes from in Japanese, which means cloud dragon. So it's the fate of the cloud dragon twisting and turning up through the clouds. That's Rick's favourite camellia, and it's also, he loves the dragons. And we're up here in Somersby, and you can see the clouds on the top of the mountain here in the mornings when we get here.